It's time for our first ever Viewers Voice Voters Edition. We have a panel with us of 9 voters from across the central Illinois. If you follow us on Twitter or Facebook, we asked many of you to join in this conversation about the upcoming election on Tuesday. These members that are here with us now did that. We have a mix, again, of Democrats, Republicans, independents, some undecideds. Some of you have already voted, some of you haven't, and we're glad that you could all make it to join us. I want to start by just a show of hands. Who here would say that Illinois is heading in the right direction? Okay.
I'm a graduate student at the University of Illinois, and I see a lot of promise in our young people. I see a lot of new innovative technology and business coming up in Central Illinois. But obviously, there are significant sort of existing challenges.
I want to ask right now, who here, by a show of hands, can say Governor Rauner has done a good job? We've got 4 hands.
One thing he's done is hold the line on regulations, and I think that has helped increase the amount of businesses that would be interested in coming back into the state of Illinois.
How many say that J.B. Pritzker would be a better choice for governor? So again, we got 5 people there.
He's very strong on school funding. He's very strong on mental health.
There are, of course, other candidates on the ballot, and we want to get to other races here in a moment. But I want to ask, we were talking earlier amongst ourselves here, and the issue of money in politics came up. How many of you in your current job think, you know what, if I wanted to, and I was serious about it, I could run for governor? It's a difficult question. You're shaking your head no. Why do you say that?
It's become a race for billionaires. And it's very unfortunate because right now, a lot of good candidates are probably discouraged because they just can't raise the money, regardless of which party it is. Both of them are billionaires. In the primaries, they both outspend their opponents, respectively. And it's going to discourage folks in the future. I hope this is not a trend.
J.B. Pritzker has said he advocates for campaign finance reform, but that he has to fight fire with fire, that Governor Rauner opened the floodgates with all of his millions and that now he's fighting. Is that a worthy justification?
You can't have campaign finance reform without having someone who's able to get into the office and say, Citizens United was a bad decision. We here in Illinois, we need to bring back, get the super PAC money out of politics and make it open for people to be able to run.
And do you trust JB to do that once he gets in office?
I hope he will. He says he will, and I'm willing to give him that chance to prove it.
All right, who's to blame for the budget impasse?
Lots of people will say that both sides are to blame, but I think when you look at it, you have a governor who came in and thought he was a CEO. That's not how the government works. You have Republican governors in other blue states like Massachusetts who didn't have that problem because they came in and they knew they had to actually work with the legislature to get things done. So I place the blame squarely on the governor.
Anybody disagree with that? She disagrees. I want to hear your answer.
No, I don't believe that at all. I believe that our legislature was to blame, and the legislature would not work with the governor. Anything that the governor wanted, the legislature opposed.
I'm going to ask each of you to pass the mic this way and give me, in a word or two, your impression of House Speaker Michael Madigan.
Part of the scenery.
Too much power.
I think he's been there too long.
Combination of too much power and being there too long.
Out of touch with modern reality.
Time for new blood.
Ineffective for this generation.
A Machiavellian politician.
I believe you're our youngest voter here, just able to vote, and so we have a wide range here. You mentioned a generational thing twice now, and I want to ask you about that.
For our generation, we tend to fight really, really, really hard for change, like gun control, LGBT rights, bodily autonomy. It's really important for our generation to get those, and the past generations really haven't brought it up because they don't like it.
What is frustrating for me and my peers is to see political leadership really in both parties at the national and the state level, people who have been there for 20, 30 years, calcifying their power, refusing to step aside. As someone who is concerned about climate change, as someone who is an expectant father, in March, I feel like I have a lot more skin in the game than someone who is 80 and has been a committee chairperson for 35 years.
I'm a lot older, and I'm thinking that we want to conserve certain aspects of our society, even though there are things changing on a sociological basis. there are certain things that, because of the Constitution, state and national, that we want to conserve.
The same thing we asked about Speaker Madigan, about President Trump. Describe him in a word or two, whether or not you support him, oppose him. I want to know what it is you think, how the president makes you feel as an American.
Pride.
I think he makes me feel secure as for both myself and the family.
As a son of two immigrants, he threatens me personally.
He has a courage of his convictions. Folks may not always agree with him, but he says what he does.
I feel threatened as a Jew.
I feel like he's America's cheerleader. We have pride in our country now.
I feel scared.
Disgrace to call myself an American.
No one has damaged America more than Donald Trump.
It's a wide range of emotion and feeling there. Shifting gears to Congress, how then does that influence your vote?
Well, considering that Rodney Davis has been one of Trump's biggest cheerleaders and has fallen in line with Trump in his inflammatory statements about immigrants, attacking health care, I mean, I find it to be reprehensible.
How many of you support the idea of the government protecting access to coverage for pre-existing conditions? Everybody raised their hands there. How many of you thought that Obamacare was working well in 2016? So a few hands being raised.
The Affordable Health Care Act was not affordable. There were too many people who could not afford the insurance, and so they took a choice of just taking a chance on having to pay a fine.
I absolutely agree that the Affordable Care Act was a failure in the fact that it was not affordable to lots of people. The problem is that it did not go enough.
Show of hands, tax cuts, who thinks they were good for you?
I mean, personally, yeah, I'm going to see a cut in my tax bill. But the problem is there are people who are going to see a way bigger cut than me, and it's coming at the expense of services that are essential to a lot of people.
Personally, being retired and on a fixed income, it was huge for myself and my family. Father, I still have a 13-year-old to raise.
We had discussed that there's been a recent uptick in violence in the Champaign-Urbana area, and so a lot of our viewers are looking at this and wondering, what is the answer?
A lot of young African-American people are dying before they even get a chance to live. I think that we, number one, need to beef up our police departments.
You know, I just retired 3 years ago with 29 years on the streets as a county deputy. We need to reach out and not just put it on the backs of law enforcement, but we also need to have the community outreach.
When you have 8-year-old kids trying to walk to school and they getting gunned down, and it's just another story on television. But we have our politicians focus on the debate of legalizing weed or attacking a woman for wanting to go get contraception when we have kids who are dying. Let's focus on those kids that we have in our youth system already.
Well, if I can just say to each of you, you are an inspiration just for being involved and sharing your voice to other people. That's part of democracy too, not just casting the ballot, but having discussions like this one. So I thank you. I think many people in our audience will appreciate what you have all said and shared here today. Thank you for making the trip, and thank you for making your voices heard. We look forward to next week when we hear from how all of those voices shook out after the votes were counted. But thank you for showing up, and we'll be back in just a moment.